December 24th, 2200. Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas, Mr. President. We, at the Delta Foundation, have just finished development of a cyborg unit, which represents the next generation of fighting robots. We would like to sell it to our government's Department of Defense. You realize, of course, that this cyborg would be a threat to the security of our nation if sold to a foreign country. Please consider our offer and respond in 1 week. The government considered the matter very seriously and assigned a top-secret mission to SP headquarters. Your mission, issued secretly from the Department of Defense, is to destroy the Delta Foundation. As our policy states, we cannot get involved in the event something should happen to you. Wow, that's really abrupt getting into the title screen. Hello everyone and welcome to Let's Play Powerblade 2! Did the first one not too long ago, I realized, why not? Let's move right on to the sequel. Before the cutscene starts over again, let's get right into it. Alright, starting off, we do have a stage select similarly to the first Powerblade, but instead of the levels being sort of, not Metroid-y, but more open-ended where you had to find an agent to contact and then the boss door, Powerblade 2 instead opts for the individual levels to instead be more linear A to B platforming stages. Additionally, you can only access 4 of the game's 6 stages off the bat, and you can do them in any order. With that said, honestly, the most convenient method to play through them is going from 1 through 4. Similarly to Powerblade 1 from my memory, at the bottom of the screen you can see a power menu. You extend that by getting stars. That doesn't actually increase the power of the boomerangs though from my memory. I think it just raises the distance at which the boomerangs will travel. With that said, other upgrades you can get a red boomerang, I believe, just from defeating enemies that increases the strength, and then a double boomerang which allows you to throw at least 2 at a time. I actually forget if you had this ability in Powerblade 1, because I don't think I ever did it actively unless it was required. But you can also now press down on the jump button to slide, similarly to Mega Man, and you're going to need to use that with proper timing in certain cases to get through one-tile gaps. We also have a few more power-ups this time around. For instance, we now have batteries and extra rations, or lunch packs, sort of, which you use the life-ups by pressing the select button at any point in case you're getting low on health. But you can also just find energy and food items dropped by enemies that restore your bars as they need be, just by playing the level. Stage 1's closest thing to a mechanic is that it has a lot more conveyor belts than some of the other stages from my memory, but it also has these little spider enemies that can be kind of annoying. Every level is divided roughly in half, though, by a particular mini-boss that we'll be seeing in a few moments. All I will say in terms of keeping yourself alive through this is A, be patient, don't rush through these levels, and B, don't spam your healing items. Because if I'm recalling correctly, they do stay with you at least... Actually, no, do they stay with you after death? Or am I thinking... No, wait, no, they stay with you after death. You only lose them in the event of a game over. And the way game overs work in this game is a bit kinder than some other games on this console. If you get a game over, you have to start the stage over, or you can get a password. And the password system in this game's kind of Super Nintendo-y for what it is. It's a 3x4 grid, and you can press the A button on any of the squares to cycle through one of 7 icons. You just have to choose the 12 that the game gives you at the password screen after a game over. With that said, it only saves, I believe, the stages you've cleared and the suits you've gotten, and nothing else, so be careful. With that said, speaking of suits, time for this stage's mini-boss. Every stage has a mini-boss against some variant of this dragon enemy, which I think is reminiscent of a boss from Powerblade 1. This first one fires some fire occasionally and dashes left to right across the room. Pretty simple. But for beating it, we get our first of this game's many Powerblade Suits. As opposed to the one in the first game, this game has various suits that do different things in different environments. In level 1, we get the Newt Suit, and the way you change suits, by the way, is by pausing the game and then pressing up and down. The suits all have much better attack range and rapid, and even strength, but the problem is they use the energy meter down below our health, which is sort of a battery meter in and of itself. It's not a secondary health bar. I believe if you get hit in the suits, you still take HP damage. The way you refill energy is by either grabbing batteries dropped by enemies, or with the large battery packs and letting the bar run out. With that said, I recommend being very conservative with your suits in this game. I recommend only using them if you absolutely need to, i.e. if the platforming in the room really needs it, or just saving it for boss fights. The Newt Suit in particular is semi-magnetized. You can hang onto walls and even climb ceilings. I honestly really like this suit, but because I want to be more conservative with my batteries, I seldom use it. I've had playthroughs, though, where this has gotten me through some really tough platforming sequences in the game. On that note, let's go over this game's story in the manual, because it explains it a little bit better than that intro, but it has the same kind of joking narrative that the first Powerblade had. Man versus Cyborg. So what's up now? Asked Nova, entering the briefing room at SP headquarters. His boss answered, the Delta Foundation. Nova groaned. Oh man, not them again. His boss continued, has built a line of near-perfect fighting cyborgs. They want our government to buy them or else they'll sell them to an unfriendly neighbor. I should note, in the manual, to an unfriendly neighbor is presented as one word because they ran out of space, I presume. So, finally, the president has decided it's time to put Delta out of business. And he wants you to do it. Nova nodded. I'd love to mop up that place. Who's my team? His boss smiled. You! Mission objective. Nova stared at his boss. Just me, huh? Well, don't you surprise me sometime. His boss shook his head. Price you pay for being the best. Now pay attention. Here's what you've got to do. Delta has 4 stages of operation. Near the middle of each is a kind of dragon machine boss. That creature has a suit you must get. Then go to the end of the stage and take out the final boss. You can enter the stages in any order. After these first 4, you'll find a 5th one. Good luck. This will be a tough mission. I noticed they don't even mention stage 6 in there. With that said, though, despite you being able to take on the stages in any order, I feel these stages do have a climbing difficulty, so starting with stage 4, I would argue, is a really bad choice. And again, the suits, because of them each having their own little pluses and minuses and good situations, I feel going in 1 through 4 also puts them all in a great chance of being used. Like, you could easily skip this entire platforming sequence just with the Newt Suit. I just want to skip it. Also, I am heavily resisting saying Newt Suit right because I love that song. Either way, the boss of stage 1 is actually using the suit we're going to be getting in stage 4, the Patriot Suit. The way you want to fight this boss is slide underneath it to get to the platform it's on top of, and when it fires its projectiles, they will stick on the floor, creating kind of a Heat Man thing out of Mega Man 2. Actually, I guess it's more Flame Man from Mega Man 6. And then try to just run into you. The more damage you do, the more of its shield you take out, and eventually you'll just start whittling it down its health bar. With the Newt Suit and just keeping good distance, it's a pretty easy boss fight. Also, yeah, let's torch this place. A successful escape. Honestly, I like this game's, and this is me showing off the fact you can go through stages 1 through 4 in any order. I like how this game handles its level progression a lot more than Powerblade 1, because Powerblade 1, while it had the true Mega Man effect in that you can go after them in any of the stages in any order, you didn't really get anything for doing that. And the stages didn't really have any underlying mechanics due to that, outside of maybe some annoying, you need to go find the agent and they're all the way here and you need to wrap around the level once to get back to the exit. I'm thinking of the boat level in particular in that case. For instance, stage 2 loves its auto-scrollers. In particular, we have this sequence kind of at a Dustman stage of Mega Man 4, where we have this crusher ceiling that if it does crush you is instant death, so be careful. Despite it looking like a chainsaw, it's more so just a block of solid death. Like most NES auto-scrollers, though, in particular in the vertical sequences here. If you get too far ahead of the screen, it does count as a bottomless pit. So make sure you take your time here. Don't rush too far ahead. You're probably going to take a cheap shot at this particular bowling ball because I think it moves a bit too quickly for its own good. But otherwise, I feel Powerblade 2 is a sequel done right in a lot of regards. I think difficulty is a bit of a thing in certain regards comparatively, though. Because Powerblade 1, I thought had a relatively fair difficulty curve, even though it had very little difficulty curve at all. What I'm trying to say is Powerblade 1 was a very approachable game in terms of its difficulty, I felt. Whereas Powerblade 2, in terms of the complexity of the hazards and how fast it throws them at you, or in particular how it handles any of its last two stages, definitely is a harder game. That said, I'm also fond of something this game does that Castlevania sort of attempted to do. At least Castlevania 1, in that if you look down the bottom of the stage, it says we're in Area 2, Stage 2, Area 3 of 8. Castlevania 1 had that thing, I think Castlevania 3 had it as well, where it divided all the stages into sub-areas. This one does as well, so you can always tell roughly how far you into a stage, and get a good grasp of, okay, if I die here, I'll lose this much progress, because I believe in this game, if you die, you're just sent to the beginning of the area you're in, not the stage. So I'd be sent back to this entrance to Area 4, if my memory serves. But that said, I will say, Stage 2 does have one of the harder mini-bosses, because of the water physics. You jump up super high, but you're super slow in doing so. And this particular dragon boss shoots fireballs that will kind of go down and then travel straight forward, and then does a bouncing movement, which I feel is very hard to dodge unless you stick to the ceiling with the Newt Suit. I've beaten this boss without doing the Newt Suit strat, but I find it's a little bit just too annoying for its own good, at least for the most of the health. Once it gets below about maybe 5 health, you can then rely on the boomerangs potentially hitting it twice and taking it out like that. Because that's one thing I really do like about the Powerblade games. Because your weapons are boomerangs, if you place yourself right, you can get 2 hits in at once. And for beating this mini-boss, we get the Wetsuit. Take a guess what situations this is good in. If you're thinking it's great for swimming, congratulations, you're right. There we go, there's me selecting it. You can now swim and you have full directional control. With that said, outside of water, it doesn't really do much. You know, I gotta admit though, I'm looking at the manual for this game. Compared to a lot of other NES manuals, this one's very straight and to the point. It tells you where you can get each of the suits, what it does pretty easily, what all the items do with pretty decent clarity. Not many NES manuals, I feel, are as straight and to the point as this one. And you know what, I appreciate that, because having read my fair share of NES, Super Nintendo, and GBA manuals in particular, and Game Boy even straight-up manuals in my day, from the games I grew up on, some of those either straight up lied, had no idea what they were talking about, or just were way too emphasized on, ooh, look at this thing you might be able to do. Either way, here is the other half of Stage 2. This is probably one of the hardest segments in the game because that fire there is instant kill. So jump above it and try to stay to the left of these platforms so you can get a good grasp on when you should jump out. Also, whenever you see a block like that, as you may have seen earlier, that is... the weirdest way to describe this is the Mega Man Battle Network 3 onwards non-solid blocks for the Navi Customizer, the one that's like 4 mini blocks next to each other. Those are destructible blocks that we can destroy just whenever you throw your boomerangs at them. You want to be a bit aggressive with how fast you progress in this particular area, because the moment the fire dips below the platform, you're safe. And honestly, with some of the gaps between the platforms, particularly when you have to duck beneath some of these larger platforms, I feel it's the only way you can safely make it through a particular hazard, or section, rather. That said, that section level also ends pretty anticlimactically, and now we're in another vertical crusher segment. Yay! My favorite. Honestly, I feel Powerblade 2 is one of those games where, as long as you're good at staying alive, you're gonna stay alive a while, if that makes sense. Because your upgraded arsenal between deaths is so much better than your base arsenal that if you can just stay alive for 2 screens and don't fall for any instant death traps, you're going to be able to handle basically any enemy that gets thrown your way. Maybe less so mini bosses and boss fights, but the main enemies don't stand much of a chance. The only real exceptions are the frisbee throwers, like the 2 we've seen in this stage, and one particular one in stage 5 and 6 in particular that I can think of. You want to be careful in this stage. It took me a while to figure out what was going on in this particular segment. First off, the green muck below, you slowly sink into it and it eventually becomes a bottomless pit, so be careful there. If you're going to be in it, mash the jump button so not only you can travel faster, but you won't fall into the pit. But be careful whenever you see a weird little corkscrew on the ceiling. That implies enemies are going to fall out of that, and you might get blindsided by that, and that's no good. Also, Powerblade 2 soundtrack is really good. I don't think either Powerblade soundtrack is particularly memorable. It's still good stuff, don't get me wrong, but compared to other NES soundtracks, it's nothing too memorable. But I'd say it's a good follow-up to Powerblade 1 soundtrack. Alright, boss of stage 2 uses the air suit we're going to be getting in, I believe, stage 3? This thing, you want to use the Newt Suit on particularly again, because if you just stick around the middle of the ceiling, it will not be able to touch you too much, because first off, the fish that generate won't be able to hit you. And the only way it attacks you otherwise, aside from trying to hit, maybe do a swipe at you occasionally, is it'll fire 2 missiles out that travel at different trajectories, and your boomerang blasts of sorts can hit that no problem. Let's torch this place and get away. I don't know why I'm saying this like Duke Nukem. Maybe it's because he looks like god dang Duke Nukem. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 2, I think we're taking on at least levels 3 and 4? Question mark? I think so. See you guys then.